There's a strange thing that can happen when we finally become willing. We assume that because we've reached a genuine yes, something now has to happen. But willingness does not require enactment. Recently, I offered to foster a tiny kitten if I was needed. I didn't want or need another animal, but I realized I could become a bridge for this kitten. If the kitten just needed to pass through my care on the way to somewhere else to its final destination, I was willing. But ultimately, it turned out that that wasn't necessary. Someone else stepped in and they became the bridge. And then I realized there was something really important about that. My willingness was still real. We sometimes treat willingness as though it only matters when it becomes action, when it's turned into something concrete. If I'm willing to have the conversation, then the conversation should happen. If I'm willing to make the change, then I should have to make it. If I'm willing to release something, then something should leave. If I'm willing to meet a difficult possibility, then perhaps that possibility needs to arrive. But no, that's not really the case. Willingness is not a prediction, it's not an invitation, and it's not an agreement that a particular experience now needs to occur. Willingness is an orientation. It says, if this is what life presents, I am available to meet it. That's very different from saying, this must now happen. Sometimes becoming willing is enough because the important movement wasn't necessarily waiting outside of us. Sometimes the movement was at the end of our resistance. We stopped bracing. We stopped negotiating with a possibility. We stopped needing reality to guarantee a particular outcome before we could be okay. And we discovered something much more useful. Whatever happens, I can meet what is actually here. That doesn't mean we want every possible outcome. It doesn't mean that we become passive. And it certainly doesn't mean we have to prove our willingness by choosing the hardest road available. It simply means we are no longer arranging ourselves around avoiding one. And there's tremendous freedom in that. Because once you're willing, you don't have to manufacture the next step. You don't have to prove anything, and you don't have to turn your readiness into an assignment. You can remain available and let reality reveal what actually needs your participation. Maybe the conversation happens, maybe it doesn't. Maybe you make the move, maybe circumstances reorganize first. Maybe you become ready to carry something and then discover it was never yours to carry. Nothing was wasted. Readiness has value even when no action follows it. You learned something about yourself. I could, I would, and I'm no longer afraid of having to do it. And then you return to the present moment, not waiting for your life to test your readiness, not looking for evidence that your willingness mattered, just available, responsive, and unbraced. So perhaps when you reach that place of genuine willingness, you don't need to ask, okay, what happens now? You can simply say, I am available for what is actually mine. And then you let life answer in its own way. And then it's complete. I'll leave you today with this decree. I release the belief that readiness requires enactment. I do not need to prove my willingness through difficulty. I can become available without creating an assignment. If something is mine to meet, I trust myself to meet it. If it is not, I let it pass without needing the preparation to mean anything more. I am ready without bracing, available without anticipating, and responsive to what is actually here. Amen.